It was in my mother's living room. I just sat there, and I was surrounded by a player piano, a crank phonograph, telephone, radio, my guitar, my harmonica, and that's all I needed. And that day that I said, well, I'd like to hear what I sound like, I said, well, how am I going to do that? So I sure did my chores, because otherwise Mother wouldn't give me the crank for the phonograph, and I got that on Wednesday. If I mowed the lawn and I weeded the garden and I did everything I was supposed to do, I got the crank for the phonograph. Well, one day I said, I'm going to make a recording machine. And I started that thing, and I says, well, the first thing you're going to need to do is get a balanced turntable. That wheel that sits there and holds that record, that better be right. So my dad had a garage. And I went down to my dad, and I said, Dad, I got a problem. So he figured I was going to bum 10 cents off him to go to the show, see Laurel and Hardy or something. No. I said, Dad, I need to get a round plate like a phonograph record. And I says, and I want to make a phonograph record, and I need something that's balanced. So the mechanic was there. He was underneath the car and listening to this thing. And in those days, they laid on these pieces of wood with the rollers on it, and to get under the car and fix it and come out. So he pushed him out from underneath the car. His name was Hooks. So Hooks says, hey, Red, what are you looking for? So I needed something to make a turntable out of, heavy in weight, balanced. He says, in the alley, he says, you go back there and take that car apart, that old Cadillac that's sitting there. He says, get the flywheel off of that. He says, they have already done it for you. So I got the turntable. It was that time I was getting my teeth fixed. And there's nothing wrong with my teeth, they just needed a cleaning, and the drummer, Boyd, he would do it for nothing. He'd clean my teeth if I would show him how to play something on the banjo. And while I'm there in the chair, in the old days, they used dental belt. That belt's running all around everything, and he's got a thing on the floor, and he steps down on that thing. It was cool. And I'm looking at this thing, so I said, oh, hey, Doc, where do you get that belt? He says, why do you want a hunk of that? Yeah, but I'll need a certain length to go around the turntable and da-da-da-da. So he sent away where he got the parts for his dental belts, for his dentistry. And then I found an old motor in my dad's garage there. Still got it, 50 cycles, not 60. But Hook says, it'll run on 50 or 60, just plug it in and it'll be a different speed. But by the time you get it all together, you can make it any speed you want by the size that you make the components. So I rigged up a recording machine, and I guess I had all Waukesha upside down with that thing, because I'm the first guy in that town to have something like that. The next thing I had to do is find something that I could use for cutting a lead screw. So I went back to my dad and Hooks, and Hooks says, well, yeah, come on over here, and he takes me over to a lathe. And he shows me this, and he says, that's what you need is one of those. Here, he gives me one out of the drawer. And that, and a paring wheel, a paring knife from my mom's drawer, and I just put that paring wheel in there, and it would go along the lead screw, and anyway, I rigged it up and plugged it into the radio, and I'll be damned if we didn't start our own recording. I was deep into making my own recordings in my own home, in my own apartment on the north side of Chicago. And that was a trip. That was really, really, you can't imagine this tiny little apartment where I had, where you open a couple of doors and there's a sink. And there's room for a few dishes and some knives and forks, and that was it. Now, there's one room, and it had a Murphy bed where you pull the bed down out of the wall. And behind that was my recording lathe. And there was a bathroom, and that's it. So if you wanted, if my friends come over to record, you have to pull the bed out of the wall. You have to pull the bed down, and you have to sit and record sitting on the bed. And of course, you'd have a bass player, and by the way, in that small room, I had a piano, I had a console radio, I had my recording lathe, and a dog. And that's where we made our first records.